Will you kindly? Nice. So thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate that King and Paul and I know you are in a different time zone. So we really appreciate you guys taking your time to come over to our session. So we may have some glitches along the way. I don't know if you guys can hear me already. I think you may already be experiencing the first glitch. Nice, perfect. So we may have some glitches along the way, but if any happens, we do apologize. So our speaker today is a senior software engineer at Telnyx. For those who don't know, that is a communications platform. And he started following Elixir back in 2015. Oh man, that is a long time. That is a long time. And started using it in 2017 in production. So he's very experienced in that field. During his onboarding at Telnyx, he did an integration with Slack on the video meet application that they were using. So he's not only tech savvy, he also plays badminton on the side, though not really good, but it's still good because you're still playing. He'll be showing us how he built the Slack app that integrates with the video meet application. So Qing Wu, kindly feel welcome.
Thanks, Frank, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm really glad to be here today. Let me quickly share my screen. Sorry, just give me 1 sec to bring everything up.
Do you have the permissions to share your screen?
Oh, I think you needed to enable that for me. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. Good. I think there's someone who joined us. Elixir, can kindly allow everyone to share the screen.
Oh, okay. Now I can share.
Okay.
Let's see.
Nice.
Can you see? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Cool. All right. Hello everyone. As you already know, thanks to Frank. My name is Qing Wu, and I'm from a company called Telnyx. I've recently built a Slack app with Elixir and Phoenix. I'm going to share the how and some learnings in this webinar. Just a little bit of background before we dive into it. I joined a new company called Telnyx, and I'm working on our new video product called a Video Room. And it's not a competitor to Zoom, which we are using right now. The idea of our video product is to provide SDK and backend API so that our clients can build their own Zoom if they want to. In order to demonstrate the capabilities of our video room product, we also built a Zoom-like thing called what we call Video Meet, so that we can showcase what you can do with our video product. It's based on React and Next.js on the front end, and also it's open source to serve as a reference. Well, almost everything is open source. Just the part for handling deployment to our infrastructure is not. As part of my onboarding, I needed to build a onboarding project based on our video product. The idea is to get a feel of what the video product can do before actually start working on it. One of the options is to build a Slack integration for Video Meet. I was like, that sounds interesting. I'll take it. Since I was building Slack integration, I looked into Slack API naturally. It is safe to say it's quite powerful, and it allows you to do a lot of things, create a wide range of Slack apps. For example, to send alerts from your production application, to start a survey, to send a funny GIF, or start a meeting. But unfortunately, in my opinion, if you don't know much about Slack API, it's kind of hard to get started. So it's not very beginner friendly, especially if you are using a niche language like Elixir, which we all love. They feature their SDK called a Bolt, but it only supports Java, JavaScript, Python, those 3 languages. I would imagine if you do use those languages, it would be quite helpful. But if you don't, then it actually makes it harder to dig up information that you need. Anyway, let's look at how to create a new Slack app. You can do that on this website, api.slack.com/apps. And it's actually quite simple. Just needed to provide a name for the app and select a workspace, because Slack is based on workspaces. And that's pretty much it. Once I got a Slack app, what I was trying to build is what they call / command that would start a meeting in Video Meet. A / command is just when you type forward / followed by something in the Slack message box. And here, ABCD is the command. Of course, all the commands that you use need to be provided by a Slack app that's installed in your workspace. One interesting example is Jiffy. This picture is what you get when you type /Jiffy hello. Here, Jiffy is the command and hello is like a parameter. What Jiffy Slack app does is to grab a random GIF based on the parameter, in this case, hello, and send this message that's only visible to you. If you are happy with the image, just click send and it will send it to the channel. Clicking shuffle will get you a different random GIF. Or of course, if you change your mind, you can click cancel to not send anything. Another example would be Zoom. So when you type /Zoom, it will start a meeting in Zoom and show you a show you the meeting ID, a join button, and passcode, etc. By the way, if you use the join button, you don't actually need the passcode because it's already included in the join URL. This is pretty much what I would like to do, just for Video Meet rather than Zoom. I wanted to start the meeting in Video Room. So you can create a / command.
Now I'll never get to clean up the mess.
I can hear some music.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can create a new / command in the app management interface on Slack. You need to fill out lots of information, but in my opinion, the most important ones are command name and the request URL. Command name is just what the user should type after the /. And request URL is the URL of your app backend. When the user do type the command, Slack will send a post request to the request URL. It needs to be publicly accessible. and it needs to be able to handle the request from Slack. And one thing to note here is that your app needed to respond within 3 seconds to Slack. Otherwise, the command will time out. I think that makes sense because you don't want your user to wait too long after they type a command. That's just simply not very good user experience. Here is a sample request from Slack for a / command. As you can see, there are a whole bunch of fields. Here, the important ones are, at least for my purpose, command and the text and user ID and the username. Sorry, I forgot to highlight those, the last 3. But the command, is what the user type. The reason it's helpful for us is that we have the option. Obviously, we can include a different request URL for each command we support, but we also have the option to handle multiple commands with the same request URL, in which case we can just match on the command field in the request, which is really, really handy that Elixir can support pattern matching on the function head. That's really, really handy for this kind of situations. And the text is what the user type after the / command, and it serves as the argument to the command. User ID and the username are just the Slack user ID and the username for the user who triggered the command. Okay, so our goal is quite clear by now. We just wanted to create a /meet command that handles requests from Slack and create a UI that looks like this. Obviously, this mockup is based on the Zoom example from earlier. But what we wanted to do is update the app name to Video Meet and change the logo, change the logos here and here. Also, we don't need a passcode, so we don't need this line or this line, and there's no need to show the meeting ID in our case. But we do want to have a meeting title and also the status when it was started, and also a join button and the list of participants. My first instinct is to send this as a Slack message, and I just needed to compose the message to have all the elements from our mockup, and then make it look like what we want in the mockup. So for composing messages, Slack has what they call block kit. Well, I'm not exactly an expert on this, but it feels very, very similar to creating web UI with HTML, except this is using JSON in the request to Slack. So you can compose a message with 1 or more blocks. Each block can have multiple block elements and composition objects. So what are block elements? Well, they can be a button, for example, or a menu. We have seen the button examples from Jiffy and Zoom, right? And about composition objects, the most common is a piece of text, which I'm sure we all have experience of. Essentially, a message in Slack is, from the purpose of sending it using BlockKit, it's just a series of nested JSON objects. Yeah, we can compose them. With this in mind, I was able to get the title and the join button like this, but it's quite far from what we actually want. Specifically, I did not figure out a clean way to implement the status line that changes all the time, and also the participant list, because we needed to update them. Even if it is possible to implement, it's going to be super tedious to update them over time as we need. Also, another problem is that BlockKit does not seem to support the nice looking border and background color. Like what we had with the Zoom example, yeah. So unfortunately, this seems to be a dead end for our purpose. Then how should I do this? I thought it must be possible because Zoom has done it. So I must have missed something. Then I stumbled upon the Slack calls API. As it turns out, calls API was what I missed. This is just a screenshot from the overview section of Slack calls API documentation. Look how similar it is to the Zoom call. I bet this is how Zoom did it too. And I believe this is the way for my purpose too. Once we know the what, it's just a matter of time to figure out the how. In this case, I wanted to start a async task and send a empty empty response back to Slack immediately to make sure that the / command doesn't time out on Slack. In the async task, we needed to do a couple things. First is to create a room with a video room API. And this is where people are actually going to have their meeting. Next, to start a call in Slack. It's worth noting that the Slack call here is purely for UI purpose. It shows a message in the call for the call in Slack so that people know that there is a call going on. And the join button directs people to where the meeting is actually being held. In this case, a room in Video Meet. Lastly, I needed to store information about the room and the call in a Gen server so that we can update the call when somebody joins or leaves. I also saved them in the database too. So in the case of crash or redeployment, we can load the Gen server state from the database and we don't lose any information about ongoing calls. After doing all that, when I type /meet, I'll get this, which is really, really great. But we are not quite done yet. We still needed to update the participant list in the Slack call when somebody joins or leaves the video room. So basically the idea is that we use the video room as our source of truth for the participants. And then if someone new joins, we want that to be reflected in the Slack call, in the participant list in the Slack call. Same for when somebody leaves. So here's iteration 1. I came up with running a periodical task in the Gen server. In the task, first get the participants in video room, which is the source of truth, and then I needed to get the participants in the Slack call, and then lastly compare the two lists, and then based on what we get, update the Slack call. This approach is kind of simple enough, and yeah, but unfortunately, again, this didn't quite work. The problem is that the Slack API for getting participants always return all participants, even if they have already left. So basically, I can't get an accurate list of the remaining participants. Therefore, the subsequent calls to remove the participant to the Slack call in the Slack call would fail. The key here is that I can't rely on Slack API to know who is still in the Slack call. So then I was like, that's a bummer. What can I do then? Sorry. So how about I do it myself? How about I do it myself? I added the participant list in the Gen server state. So when a new call starts, participant list would be empty. When I see a new participant in video room, I will add them to the participant list in the Gen server state and also add them to the Slack call. Same would have happened for participants leaving. I just need to remove them from Gen server state and also the Slack call. And then this way, we will be able to keep all the participants in sync from the video room and the Slack call. Now this approach works fine, but it's still not ideal. Essentially, the problem here is that we don't know when people joins or when people join or leave. So we have to rely on blindly polling the system every so often. We don't want to do it too often because the task for updating all video rooms and all Slack calls takes some time. And also, if we consider the nature of the problem here, when a group of people are in a meeting, the participant list isn't going to update every second, for example. So we'll be creating unnecessary pressure on our video room API. On the other hand, we also don't want to do it too infrequently because that means the participant list would stay out of sync for a long time. Luckily for me, we added, my team added a webhook support in the video room API backend, which is super handy for my Slack app. It means we can be notified when someone joins or leaves. So in the next iteration, I added support for webhooks. It's quite neat because I just needed to handle two types of events. First is obviously participant joined event. When I receive one, I just needed to add the participant to the Gen server state and also the Slack call. It's kind of same for participant left event. I just need to remove the particular participant from Gen server state and also the Slack call. And now we would have a up-to-date participant list in the Slack call, which is great. Okay, what if everybody has left the call? Well, in that case, we obviously want to do some cleaning up. Specifically, we wanted to delete the room in video API, and we want to end. We also wanted to end the call in Slack. Also, we wanted to remove the room and the call information from our Gen server state. Next question is when to do it. Well, if at least one person has joined, then when no one is in the call, we can assume that the meeting has ended. We'll just finish the call. Another situation is that when a call has been started, but no one joins for a whole day, it's most likely been forgotten. So we should also clean it up. If people need to have a meeting, they can always start a new one with /meet. So there's no real negative consequences here. Yeah. We are almost done. Just need a little bit more to make it more, I would say, secure. If we think about the flow of our / command, the user would type /meet in Slack, and then our app will receive a request from Slack, and we handle that request, right? But there's a little problem because from our app's perspective, how do we know if a request is actually coming from a Slack rather than some hackers, for example? Up to this point, we don't really know that. So we need some way to verify the authenticity of a Slack request. Fortunately, Slack does provide a secure way to verify requests from them. For each Slack request, for each Slack app, Slack generates a unique string as a signing secret and is shared with the developer. Slack will sign the body of each request to your app using that secret. The resulting signature is sent in a header called X Slack signature. Since the current timestamp is also involved in calculating the signature, it is also sent in a different header called X Slack request timestamp. Last thing we need is obviously the raw request body. Since I'm using Phoenix, getting the request body is actually not as easy as it sounds. With Phoenix, when a request reaches our controller, the body has already been turned into a Elixir map, which is super helpful for most situations. But not having access to the raw request body is not helpful at all when we needed to calculate a signature from the request body. In order to gain access to the raw request body, we needed to create a custom parser, which looks like this. Essentially, we grab the body from the request like this. Here would be the body, and then we put it in a new assign called raw body, and then we will have access to that. Well, we needed to put this snippet of code in our endpoint for Phoenix as well to let Phoenix know that we wanted to use this parser called a cache body reader for URL encoded and the JSON content types. Once we do that, the raw request body will be available in the raw body assign. Now we would have everything we need to recompute the signature. So let's look at how we actually do that. Well, first we concatenated the literal string v0, the timestamp that we get from the header and the raw body we just got, and separate them with with semicolons, and I'm calling it a base string. Then we create a hmac SHA-256 hash with the signing secret using Erlang's built-in crypto library. And then we base 16 encoded into a lowercase string. Lastly, we needed to prepend it with a literal string v0 equals. And then we've got our version of the Slack request signature. And we just need to compare it with the signature that's sent in the Slack header. Well, note here that we wanted to compare those two signatures, but we wanted to do it with secure compare from the crypto module rather than using double equals because the latter is subject to timing attack. For those who are not familiar, timing attack is kind of interesting because you would think using double equals wouldn't pose any sort of security risks, but actually it does in some situations. For example, when you use double equals, it fails early. As soon as it sees the two characters are different, it will return false, right? which is what we want because we want it to be more efficient. But it would kind of give a potential hacker a clue as to how many characters are the same from the actual signature, for example, and the calculated one. Then they can, based on the time, double equals return. So yeah, we just wanted to avoid that and use a library function like secure compare in this case. It guarantees to return no matter when does it see two characters to be different, it will always return in constant time. Yeah. Let's summarize it up. I had a lot of fun building this, figuring it out, and writing Elixir to solve problems makes me happy. I also wanted to talk a little bit about dealing with unknowns. As you have noticed, I have run into some dead ends. I have to find some other ways to solve the issues I had. Yeah, unless you only work on things that you already know very well, inevitably you will have to learn new things from time to time. From my own experience and my observations of other people, when you learn something new, it's very rarely a straight line. You take detours and you run into dead ends, but that's okay. And that is natural. There is no need to be upset about it. Getting stuck on something is only natural. Just tell yourself, oh, this way didn't quite work. What else could I try? If you keep trying, most likely you'll be able to solve the problem. And that would be super satisfying. And of course, there are situations where you can't succeed. But I would argue, even in those situations where you gave up after trying your best, the experience of you trying your very best at an impossible task is still very valuable for the next time when you are faced with something really, really difficult. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everyone. And that's all I have for today. Do we have any questions?
Wow. Thank you very much, Qing.
Thank you.
And indeed, learning new things is very good. Like I've learned today that using double equal sign might be insecure. That was very interesting. So somebody asked in the chat if there is a reason as to why Slack sends the list of all users that joined at first instead of just sending the ones that are available at the moment. I don't know if you ever thought of that or found out why.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Like you mentioned earlier that Slack will keep track of all the users that join the video chat. And that is the same number of users that it will keep on sending back to your endpoint. So somebody was asking, is there a reason as to why Slack decided to do that?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. But what I have noticed is that in Slack, when the call is ongoing, it will update the participant list as how many people are currently in the call. So that's to say that they must know who has left, who has not, right? But in the API request, they always send everything back for whatever reason. And there isn't a field to differentiate if they have left or not. But I also noticed that if the call has ended, it will show all the participants who have ever joined that call. I don't know if that's related, but yeah, that's what I've noticed with the behavior of a Slack call.
Interesting. I don't know if we have any questions from the participants. You can just unmute with us. I think it's Edwin speaking. Let me mute him. Okay. So personally, I have, I think about the signature verification, I've seen Stripe doing the same. But I remember personally the approach that I used was just to have a different plug altogether that handles requests from Stripe. So I didn't really want to mess up my pipeline flow in the Phoenix router. So just have a separate plug that will handle all that. But I think that may be cumbersome if you have a lot of requests from different applications.
Yeah, totally. That's actually how I did it too. I have a separate pipeline for handling Slack request, and then I put the plug. I put the plug for verifying the signature in that pipeline. Yeah, and I also have another kind of similar pipeline for handling the requests from Telnyx for the webhook requests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was interesting. Any question? Any other question?
Yeah, feel free to ask if you have any other question.
Mm-hmm. I can see your Congo has just joined us. What would you like to say hi?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I think we just lost him.
Oh,
Is it just me?
that's
Can you guys
yeah.
hear?
I think AUKUS is breaking up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. I know this was an amazing session.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, are you still speaking?
Oh God. Hello.
I can also hello AUKUS.
Mm-hmm.
My internet is very poor, Qing. Sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Oh, and by the way, I also realized, I don't know, you talked about storing information on the database for the permanent persistence. And that is if at all maybe you deploy again or your server crashes and then you lose information, right?
Yes.
Or was it also for historical purposes?
Well, I guess both. You can get some information in the database for the call that has happened before and who have joined, because that they will live there with a different status, obviously. But yeah, I guess the main purpose was to make sure that we don't lose any information for ongoing calls. I mean, even if the app crashed, we can still load the gen server state from the database.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking, I think in one of our sessions, we talked about, we always have some weekly Monday meetups, and we were going through OTP. And I think we covered something called DETS. And some of the use cases that we saw some people using is because you're typically writing a file. So every single time when you want to deploy or when you want to shut down your application, then you'll write your state in that file. Then when your server goes up, you read back again. So instead of, if at all it wasn't for permanent storage aside, just to keep it temporary. That's also something that I've seen people doing.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we don't have many questions from the participants.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, but we'd like to thank you guys for taking your time. I know it's already 10 p.m.
Yeah, almost. No worries.
Thank you a lot. We highly appreciate you. Feel
Yeah,
free
no worries
again.
at all.
I don't know, but now we also have Monday meetups, as I mentioned. So when you have the extra energy, you can chip in. It always happens every week on Monday at 1:30 p.m. Now that will be 9:30 p.m. on your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Feel free to jump in once more.
I also run the Elixir Sydney meetup, so anyone here is very much invited to come along. And if you would like an encore of Qing's presentation, then he's going to be giving it at our next meetup on December the when is it, Qing? Can't even remember the dates of my own meetup. It is 15th, December 15th. So yeah, you can find us on meetup.com if you'd like. And I think Nairobi time, that would probably be sort of 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So I think that's about 10 a.m. Ish, I think. So yeah, everyone is welcome. Geography, as you can see, is no barrier for meetup participation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will most definitely be there.
Great.
Right.
That would be great.
Let me stop recording.